Imagine living in America's Amazon, the second largest intact river delta system in all of North America, with over 260,000 acres of wetlands. It's a pinnacle of biodiversity and cultural significance. It's considered one of the rarest ecosystems in all of the world. Now, if you were to live in a place like this, how would you work to protect it? How would you live to appreciate it? Well, you can stop imagining because you're currently sitting in it. The Greater Mobile Tensaw Delta, just 10 minutes away from downtown Mobile, is a ecological haven and full of biodiversity. It's been celebrated by countless generations, and the work done towards protecting and celebrating this vital and precious environmental resource draws important comparisons to the aspects of sustainable tourism. Sustainable tourism aims to minimize the negative impacts to the environment from the tourism industry while maximizing the benefits to the host community. I think that most places in which we live are more special than we realize, and Mobile is clearly no exception. When we want to bring people into our communities, like through tourism, it's important that we highlight the unique charms that our communities have. In Mobile, for instance, one of the most unique things you can do is drive down to Dolphin Island and do a bit of stargazing. On a clear night, you can see thousands of stars and even a glimpse of the Milky Way. The island boasts the lowest levels of light pollution on land for hundreds of miles. From Dolphin Island, you can take the ferry over to Fort Morgan. It's considered the Gulf Coast's most scenic drive. It's about a 40-minute ride and gives you unique views of sea life, birds, and even the two forts that used to guard the entrance to the bay. Another really unique thing that Mobile has to offer is the ghost tours that are offered downtown and in the historic districts every night. It's a unique way to get a glimpse of the deeply rooted Southern tradition of storytelling, in addition to getting a better glimpse of the history of the area. By highlighting the unique charms in your local communities, you are effectively working towards the goals of sustainable tourism because you are emphasizing the strengths of those local communities. Now, how do we build on existing services, products, and tourism ventures that the opportunities lie to exist? Well, I think it's important to compare what our neighbors are doing well in nearby communities and try to adapt those ideas to work in our communities. For instance, in Mississippi, we can look at the popularity of the shrimp boat tours, which are a really cool way for tourists to get a unique lens on this key industry on the Gulf. We could translate that right into Mobile. The Mobile shrimping industry is just as important. Similarly, we can look at the swamp boat tours that are so popular all the way from Louisiana to Florida, and just imagine some of those swamp boat tours, how successful they would be on the Delta that we were just talking about. In my pursuit of my degree in tourism and recreation management with Arizona State University, go Sun Devils, I learned how to conduct a feasibility study. A feasibility study is a project management tool that is used to gauge the potential success for a business venture or for just a proposed project. Plenty of successful businesses use this tool, and tourism entrepreneurs can benefit from it as well. And what comparing existing opportunities does is it basically gives you a head start on this feasibility study, therefore granting a higher chance for success. Now, what about entirely new ideas? I think that Mobile has plenty of opportunities for new tourism ideas to bring more people to our city. One such idea, I believe, lies in the realm of secondhand goods. So my wife and I are from Richmond, Virginia, and it's a pretty artsy city. It's got a really big art community there, a big art college, and so it's a pretty trendy thing to do to go thrifting with your friends. We would go with groups of friends and like grab a coffee and then go to a thrift store, try to get some finds, you know. So I know my friends would lose their mind if they saw the quality of the thrift stores, antique markets, vintage markets down here on the Gulf. They are the best I've ever seen. So tourism entrepreneurs could take this unique opportunity here on the Gulf and develop Mobile into a sort of hub for sustainable fashion, taking advantage of this opportunity that already exists. By utilizing what Mobile already has the blueprints for, or what your local community already has the blueprints for, you are effectively working towards the goals of sustainable tourism. Now, I want to pivot for a second. I want you all to imagine for a moment that you are a bluebird. You're flying overhead, and you are, like every other day, looking for food. And so you find yourself gliding on a breezy summer day over a suburban neighborhood in West Mobile. You're looking down, you're scanning all the lawns, and you're looking for a tasty insect. Now, you're having trouble finding anything. All you see is really a few anthills here and there. It's important to note that the non-native grasses in our lawns are invisible to our local insect populations. They haven't evolved yet to be able to process these types of plants. So you as the bluebird, it all starts to blend together. The pavement, the road, the lawns, it kind of looks the same. It's all devoid of life. So you fly on by. Now, we can't convince every homeowner to change their land into a native plant paradise, but we can start one small step at a time. And I just want to pause for a minute and talk about the whole phenomenon of humans liking the look of mowed grass around their property. It's actually not been around forever. It emerged during feudalism, where wealthy lords and nobles would opt to grow grass on some of their land instead of using it to grow food. They were basically like, look how wealthy I am. I don't even need to grow food. I'll just buy it. But when European settlers came over to America, they brought with them their cultural traditions and their status symbols. And fast forward to today, neighborhoods like this have HOAs that require you to have mowed lawns. So just some food for thought. And like I said, while we can't convince everyone to change their lawns to native plant paradises, we can start one small step at a time by utilizing places like this, where have you ever driven by something like this and wondered, why is the city mowing this? It's a vacant lot, it's unused. Why are we spending so much resources, filling it with pesticides and just dumping so much money into this unused space? My proposal would be that some of these spaces could create a more beautiful atmosphere and make people want to live there more, make visitors want to come there more, if we changed these spaces into more of an urban meadow or a miniature grassland. By beautifying these spaces, we are celebrating our local community and thus promoting sustainable tourism. People notice it. Now, not every area has to turn into a native grassland like this, but it could be a little free library, little public park, even just a place with some historical plaques. Just little things here and there really add to the charm of the area and makes you more proud to live there. I think it's also important to mention that the state of Alabama used to be primarily composed of grasslands. It was pretty much all grasslands and longleaf pine forests. And while there's been important work done in the state to conserve the longleaf pine forests, there isn't as much of a public outreach for grassland restoration. So it would be very important for the restoration of our native ecosystems to create these types of scenes around our city. And we could work together with nonprofit groups like the Southeastern Grasslands Institute. And it could be as simple as getting volunteers together and spreading some seeds in some targeted areas. Now, I can't talk about the concept of beautification, which I'm really talking about here, without talking about Lady Bird Johnson. She's the best. She was the first lady to President Lyndon Johnson, and after their time in the White House, they moved back down to Austin, Texas, their hometown. She truly championed the term beautification, and she really started to work even harder on it when she came back to Austin, Texas, and saw at the time how the sprawl of the highway system and just urbanization had turned her beloved city into something that was polluted, neglected, and just not a nice place to live. Another really awesome thing about Lady Bird Johnson is she knew that this beautification she was striving for was more than just on the surface level, the aesthetics. She knew that beautification truly involved the theme of sustainability, because she famously said she wanted our children to be proud to live in the cities that we're currently living in. She wanted to ensure the beauty of the city for future generations. She was a true queen of sustainability. And after her time in Austin, Texas, there's now several parks, historical areas, and even a wildflower center dedicated to her by name. In addition, she pioneered a 10 to 15 mile long hike and bike trail that's pretty much right in the heart of Austin, Texas. I don't know if anybody's been there, but it's pretty crazy. It's a really good example of good urban design. I think that we can learn a lot from the work done by Lady Bird Johnson. By beautifying our cities and having more pride in the little spaces that make it unique, we are effectively working towards sustainable tourism. Mobile is a vibrant and welcoming destination with a vast array of tourism activities. By utilizing sustainable practices, we can ensure that the port city will develop into an enduring tourism destination for future generations to cherish and enjoy.